Hi everyone, Letty here. Welcome to hashtag Crafty Goals 2024. This is going to be a craft with me where we smash a 6x6 paper pad. I'm using Sweet Bees by Not Too Shabby and I'm making some donation cards. Welcome back everyone. So I'm participating in hashtag Crafty Goals 2024 this year. One of my goals is to smash small paper pads and also make some donation cards. So I took out this Sweet Bee 6x6 paper pad and the one that I'm going to use today is a partial pad, but here's just a quick little sneak peek of what the full paper pad looks like. I really love these colors and the patterns. They're so basic, but I really love them. And they have some gorgeous ephemera. This is called Sweet Bees from Not Too Shabby. Here's a still shot of all the little cute images that come in that ephemera pack. I also pulled out some Not Too Shabby stamp sets. I'll show you in a second which ones I'm going to be using from both of these two stamp sets. I have that one right there with the little gnome girl and then this Be Happy. So I'll show you that in just a second and the name of the stamps. But I took out some bee items. I also brought out some store-bought card bases from my stash. These were ones on clearance from Hobby Lobby. So I've been trying to use those up this year. So here is the paper pad that I am smashing. It had several sheets. I can't remember exactly how many, but it was more than half. And so I've already cut down my papers to do this Jess Crafts template number 2 for 6x6. What I love about Jess Crafts sketches is that she doesn't have any scraps left over. So it's a no scrap challenge or template. And then I also did cut some strips down for a second batch of cards. And I also have stamped and fussy cut out some of the little sentiments. And this one's coming from the Be Happy stamp set. So I just stamped it and then kind of fussy cut around the sentiment. And then I also did this little gnome girl that looks like a little bee. And this one's from Honey Bee Kisses stamp set from Not Too Shabby. I do have an affiliate link. I'll link down below for you. And so I've already stamped a ton of the images, a ton of the sentiments. I've cut down my paper. I did have a few of the little scraps left over after primarily cutting those strips down. I'll put these on the insides of my cards. And so what we're going to do today is just walk through the process of making our mass assembly cards. So the first step that I did was I've already cut down my cardstock and I have already cut down my papers. This just makes it really easy for me to do the assembly process. The next step I'm going to do is glue each of my papers to the cardstock mats, and I'm using my ATG for this step. I find that I can make a ton of cards really quickly using my ATG tape runner, so that's what I'm using for this. So I've prepped everything, and somebody in one of my comments had mentioned that they wanted to just see sort of a sped up version of some of the crafting instead of just the finished products, and so that's what I'm going to do in this video. I'm going to take you through with the bulk of the main steps that I do. I did a little bit of the cutting off camera because I figured that's the easy, really straightforward piece, and then I'm going to take you with me and we are going to assemble these from step by step what my general process is. And I am a huge mass assembly person. That's how I'm able to get so many cards done every month, is because I don't do, a ton of unique cards. I do a ton of very similar cards and I mass produce them. I make a bunch at one time. I do similar steps, repeating similar steps throughout my process, and it just makes it so easy for me. I also find it very therapeutic to just be able to let my hands go and just kind of do the same process over and over. So I just find it so relaxing to do it this way. So I've just gone through and I have already finished gluing all of these mats. So here is what it looks like once I'm completely done. And so that's our first step. The second step that I do is I'm adding some additional scrap cardstock to the right-hand side of the smaller mat. And that's just so I can keep the two patterns kind of flush. I have my card base, but whenever I layer the two mats from this sketch, you'll see here that this half of the smaller mat is a little bit uneven with the back. And it's just because you've got two layers of paper on the right-hand side. So I'm going to add some scraps. And in hindsight, I should have made these scraps just a tiny bit wider, but I'm going to add 2 of them just to kind of layer up my smaller mat to where it's a little bit more flush, which makes it a lot better. So I'm going to do that. I've already done that off camera with all the rest of them. I figured that was just a really easy step to do off camera. So I've already done that. The next step is I'm going to assemble these cards. So I'm going to start with the larger mat, and then I'm going to glue the smaller mat right on top of that. So start with the larger on the left-hand side and the smaller one on the right-hand side. And so this is just a super easy sketch. Again, if you're not familiar with Jess Crafts, you'll definitely want to check her out. I'll link her channel down or her website down below so you can get access to these free templates that she gives on her website. She has a ton of no scrap templates, and that's, again, one of my favorite things is to not have scraps left over. When I do have scraps, like in today's video, I will end up putting them on the insides of my cards. Sometimes I will sort of glue some together and make an additional card base, a front layer for an additional card. I usually just don't like to put anything back in my stash. It just makes it so much easier when I'm crafting if I can just finish it from start to finish and then kind of, take one big thing out of my craft space or my craft stash. Okay, so the next step is we're going to decorate the fronts of these cards. So I already have my images stamped, colored, and fussy cut out. I also have some sentiments. You see there I used some alcohol markers because it bled through. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these to the fronts of my cards. So I'm taking some wet glue out for this. I just find it so much easier with wet glue because I can kind of get around the little curves of the images or the sentiments really easily. So I'm going to glue the little gnome girl right on the smaller panel, and then I'm going to just add this Be Happy off to the left hand side, just like that. And again, in true like assembly line nature, I'm going to just go ahead and repeat the exact same process for all of the cards that I have. I do not have enough of the ephemera pieces or the little girl, so what I'm going to do is take out the ephemera that came with this kit, this Sweet Bees collection from Not Too Shabby, and I am going to finish off the last couple of cards with that. I'll show a full recap in just a second, but before I do, I'm going to take you into my next step, which is decorating the inside of the card. So again, I'm just going to use up these pieces of the stamped images that I had stamped and colored and fussy cut. I like to do this kind of before I jump into my main project because I feel that once I'm actually assembling the cards, it goes so much faster if I already have those ready. So here I have all of my cards ready to go. Here's what it looked like for those two that I brought in the ephemera pieces. Such cute ephemera from this collection. And then I have all the rest of my cards ready to go as well. Now, because I have black cardstock bases, I am going to add some scraps of white cardstock to the insides of my cards. I also want to use up some of those little scrap strips. So what I'm going to do is pair a scrap strip with a piece of white cardstock, and I'm going to glue it to the inside of my cards, just like this, just so I have a place to write, but I also have additional decoration, and I'm able to use up those scraps. So I'm going to glue down my little scrap strip towards the bottom of my inside of my card, and then I'm going to add this little white panel. And I did cut these a little bit smaller than a normal A2 mat just because I'm using those scrap strips down towards the bottom. I think mine were 5 1/4 by maybe 3 inches. So that's what I'm going to do for the rest of these cards. I will go ahead and do that off camera, and then I'll come back for the final recap. So for today's project, I smashed the Sweet Bees paper pad. It was a partial pad, but I had more than half of it left over. And I used some Not Too Shabby items, the ephemera pieces, as well as some stamp sets that were in my stash. And I am doing this for hashtag Crafty Goals 2024. I wanted to make donation cards and smash paper. So I did make these cards with you just a second ago. I've added some enamel dots off camera to all of them. And then I did finish off the second set of cards, which were these scrap strips. And so I went ahead and have added enamel dots to all of these. This is one of my favorite sketches, 1 inch, 1 inch, and 1 3/4 inch wide strips by 5 1/4. Those were the scraps that I had left over from the entire pad that I had. That was it. I did cut down some little scraps and make little banners for the insides of my cards. I had 28 total A2 size cards for my donation today. So a ton of cards. I'll do a quick flip through of all of the cards just so you can kind of get an idea. Again, these I ended up using the little pieces of ephemera from the Sweet Bees collection from Not Too Shabby. So I think these are just so cute. I love this collection. I love how it pairs with black. I did bring in some sentiments from my stash because I ran out of the Sweet Bees stamped image that I had already stamped and prepped for this. And I had these lying, on my desk. So I went ahead and just took them out. I didn't want to take extra time to make more sentiments. So I just used what I had. And then these are the final versions of the first card that we made with the enamel dots. I put them in a couple of different spaces. Most of them are in the bottom right-hand corner, but you can kind of get an idea of how the different patterns and images look with this set. So super fun, super easy, a ton of donation cards. I made 28 total A2 cards, again, using the Sweet Bees collection from Not Too Shabby and some of the coordinating items for the hashtag Crafty Goals 2024, which is, again, one of the collabs that I'm doing this year, trying to use up my stash. Thanks for visiting, everyone. I hope you got a little bit of inspiration. Happy crafting.